we're talking about business to business selling, trust and relationship are important. Salespeople that lead with the pitch don't do well. And really, you've got to slow things down. Start with delivering some value before you ask anything from the prospect. Before I ask you to tell me about your business or tell me about your pain, I've got to earn the right. And the best way to earn the right is.
Some experts chase attention, but the smart ones build authority. You're listening to the Authority on Demand podcast, where credibility becomes your competitive advantage. Every week, we're pulling back the curtain on how founders and leaders turn expertise into inbound demand through books that position, media that converse, and strategies that actually move the needle. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, your host and Chief Creative Officer at Authority on Demand. Now, let's turn your authority into leverage. All right, everyone. So today's guest approaches sales the way a ship's captain approaches navigation, with careful planning, deep understanding of the environment, and unwavering focus on reaching the destination safely. Joe Candido is literally a licensed USCG captain, but more importantly for our audience, he's a captain who steered hundreds of organizations away from the rocky shores of traditional selling toward the profitable waters of leadership selling. On today's episode, we're going to be charting a course through the 4 stages that transform salespeople from product pushers to trusted advisors, and discovering why the companies that resist this change are destined to run aground. And even more than that, of course, we're going to be talking about some writing tips too. So stay tuned. Joe, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks so much, Danielle. It's great to be here.
Hey, real quick before we jump back in, if you're loving what we're doing here, hit that subscribe button and drop us a like. We're bringing you the best authors, the most real conversations, and all the writing wisdom that you didn't know you needed. So stick around, because it only gets better from here. All right, now let's get back to the conversation. Yeah, no, I'm excited about this one. And a little fun fact for everybody listening today, I threw in some, sailing puns into that
Yeah.
introduction there, but unintentionally, Joe has some exciting news for us later on in the podcast about a new project involving sailing that's coming up soon.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very exciting. Before we talk about that, though, real quick, Joe, tell us a little bit about yourself. You started selling computers and they were so new that customers didn't even understand their value. Tell me a little bit about that. And things have definitely scaled since then. What's that journey been like?
Yeah, it's been a really exciting journey. And I did get started in my sales career when technology was really pretty new and businesses didn't fully understand what to do with computers. And so I pretty quickly figured out that it wasn't about features and product capabilities. It was really about understanding my customer's business and then linking that to how a computer could do something for them. And that was sort of the beginning of my revelation in terms of selling from a business customer perspective, not from a salesperson's perspective, to be client-centric and business outcome oriented. And I've been doing it ever since. And, I did it for quite a while for myself. And then I started teaching other people how to do it. And at some point, I started my consulting company after, leading some other teams. I've been a VP of sales and innovation and, worked with many executives throughout my career to help their sales teams develop better success in the field, and ultimately wound up writing my book. It was kind of a natural thing. I had done this for so long as a consultant and actually doing it myself that I felt like I had something to share. And so I wrote the book, Leadership Selling.
Well, I think that's a perfect reason to write a book. People wonder all the time, should I write a book? Is it the right time? What do I write about? But of course, the best thing you could possibly do is write about what you know, especially if
Yeah.
it's something like this where everybody can benefit from it. So I love that. So tell us about this 4-stage method. How did you come up with that? And of course, one of those is why you tell salespeople not to pitch in the engaged stage, for
Right.
example. So tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so my basic philosophy is that people don't do business with sales reps they don't know or trust. I don't do business with people I don't know and trust. And when you really evaluate what sales looks like, and I'm talking about B2B sales. So, for clarity, there's a variety of types of sales out there that my approach probably isn't applicable for. I go on Amazon and I buy stuff and there's no salesperson. So it's not, every single sales scenario. But when we're talking about business to business selling, trust and relationship are important because people won't invest time with you if they don't think it's worth their time. So they have to get to know you. So if I'm a salesperson and I'm calling on you, you're thinking to yourself, I'm busy. I've got other things to do. Why should I talk to Joe Candido? And so if I'm leading with a pitch or if I'm asking a bunch of probing questions, I haven't earned the right to do that. And you're not interested in sharing that information with me because you're not sure I'm worth the time. And so salespeople that lead with the pitch don't do well. It's not an effective cold calling technique. It's not an effective, sales approach. And really, you've got to slow things down and, start with delivering some value before you ask anything from the prospect. Before I ask you to tell me about your business or tell me about your pain, I've got to earn the right. And the best way to earn the right is to demonstrate that I know something about your industry, your company, and share something that's valuable to you. Now you're starting to think, oh, well, this guy knows a little something about my industry, knows a little something about my business. So I'm starting to build some credibility. And if I do that over a little bit of time, then you might be willing to talk to me because I've demonstrated that I understand your business. And so that's the engage stage. The engage stage isn't about pitching, it's about building a relationship based on showing the customer you understand their world. Step one.
Right. And then step 2 would be?
Yeah. So then step two
Once
is
it
once we've got some trust established, now we can move into the explore stage. And that's really doing a discovery, not just asking pain questions. There's nothing wrong with pain questions, except they're very shallow and they're really designed to help the salesperson make a recommendation. So they're not really customer centric or not as customer centric as they should be. Okay. So if I ask you, three or four questions that are very generic, it's not really learning about your business and it's not really showing that I'm interested in your business. So a proper discovery means that I have to understand, what you're doing, where your challenges lie, what your goals are, what direction your company is going. And a lot of this should be done at the senior level. Part of leadership selling, I've got a little tagline, which is be a leader, sell to leaders. Sell higher up in the organization and have a business conversation. The leaders want to talk about where they are and where they're trying to get to. They want to share their priorities because they're really focused on achieving those things. And if I can understand that, then there's a better chance that I can make a quality recommendation. If I don't understand your business, then I'm just hoping. I'm just going to take a product and put it in front of you and hope that you buy it. And hope's not a strategy, right? So step two is do a proper discovery. That's the explore stage where I really learn about your business. And there's no selling in the first two stages. I'm building relationship, I'm establishing credibility, then I'm learning about your business. So there's no selling. Now, technically, I'm selling my own value by, demonstrating my expertise, by showing an interest in your business, by getting you comfortable with me, so I am building that, that comfort in doing business, but it's subtle, it's not overt. At this point, I now am ready to make a recommendation. Step three. Step three is the resolve stage. And I don't even call it recommend, I call it resolve because I want to resolve your problem. I want to resolve your issue. I want to help you figure out what's the best way forward. Okay. So I know about your business now. I know what your challenges and your goals are. And you've given me actually an ROI, a return on investment, because you've shared information with me. Salespeople are
Right.
so afraid of ROI. I'm like, listen, the easiest ROI in the world is ask the customer, let them give it to you, and then show them how your solution links to that goal that they have. And they can't argue with it because they gave it to you. So they're comfortable with it. It's their version of what return on investment looks like. And then I just incorporate that in my proposal. And it's not manipulative, it's very helpful and informative. I mean, for example, if I'm trying to buy windows for my house because my house is old, my windows are leaking, and I'm getting water inside, and they're drafty in the wintertime. And the Windows sales rep talks to me and says, "What are your goals for the windows?" I say, "Well, I want them to be dry, and I want to keep the water out, and I want them to be well insulated, and I want my house to be warm in the wintertime." I just gave him the ROI, right? He would be a fool or she would be a fool in the proposal not to reflect that, to say the windows we're recommending, with the installation we're recommending, and the insulation that we're using, and the weatherproofing we're using is going to achieve your goals. And then just restate those goals. And there's the ROI. So, you present to the customer once you know what to present and once you have a relationship. And here's the really fascinating thing. When sales reps quickly get to proposal, the quicker they get to proposal, the less likely they are to win the deal. The longer they take in the sales journey to get to proposal, the more likely they are to win because of the reasons I stated. They built the relationship, they've established trust and credibility, and they understand the customer's goals. Now you're ready for a proposal. Now the customer's interested in buying from you. Now you can sell. Now you're at the stage where you can give them all the benefits and the features and the reasons why they should buy from you and how great your company is. Absolutely. And you can do objection handling, all that stuff, which is really valuable and important. But the timing matters. I'll give you one more analogy and then I'll turn the talking stick back to you. Um, you know, when we're dating, the first date might be a cup of coffee. The second date might be a lunch. The third date might be a dinner, right? Like there's progression. You start slow and you get to know somebody. And we need to do that when we're building a relationship with anybody. Okay. We don't go on a blind date and say, let's go away for a week, to the Caribbean. That wouldn't be realistic. That's too much too soon. So same thing with selling. Build that relationship, demonstrate you understand their business, and then you can move into making recommendations. And the fourth
Understood.
stage, just to add this last bit, the
Yeah,
fourth
yeah.
stage is the support stage, which is delivering on the promise after you've made the sale. Don't cut and run, but deliver on the promise. First off, it's your word. You want to make sure that they're satisfied. Secondly, that's how you get repeat business and referrals. It's a no-brainer to take care of the customer. You should, because it's your ethics, and you'll be well rewarded for it. There you go.
Right. I really appreciate you walking us through that. And I'm sure the book itself gives like much more details as well, about exactly what you can do for each of these stages and examples and perhaps case studies too. I'm curious to
Yes.
know, for the writing process itself, did you include a lot of examples from your own experiences or perhaps research to back it all up?
Yeah, so the book was an interesting write for me because it took me somewhere between 10 years and 6 weeks to write it. And what I mean by that is I wanted to write the book for a long time. And then you stated that at the beginning, the best book to write is one that you're comfortable with, you're experienced at. And so I had this idea of writing a book for a long time, but I wasn't ready. And at some point, I realized I am ready. Like I know my content, I know my customers, I've got a proven methodology, and I really felt like I had the clarity to do it. And so for me, the process was about figuring out who my audience was, what my overarching message was, how I wanted to position the book compared to other sales books, because there's a lot of them on the market. And I didn't want to be another Me Too sales book. I wanted to, position it differently.
Right.
And so once I had all of that, then the writing was about 6 weeks in length. Of course, the editing took a long time, and the production, the publishing, the graphics, but the actual writing process was pretty quick. It was about 6 weeks once I got myself clear with those things I just stated. And that was really the hard work for me, was getting that clarity on, who am I targeting? What's my message? What's my strategy? What's my overarching theme? All of that. That was really the hard work. Then the rest of it flowed. Yeah.
Understood. So it's kind of like once you get past that big hurdle in the beginning, things get a little bit easier. I think that's something we could all learn from, especially as writers. A lot of the times we see that challenge and we give up the project or get overwhelmed. And it's good that you kind of stuck through it. And it seems like you had a good amount of people on your team, right? Like people helping out with this research, editors.
Yes. That worked really well. And for me, to top up there, I built a table of content. And that really also made it easier to write the book because I wasn't writing a book any longer. I was writing a chapter. And chapter's easier to write, and then you write a second chapter, and then you write a third chapter. And before you know it, you're like, hey, I'm partway through my book. And so that was the other thing that, for me, I put it in manageable steps instead of trying to do the whole thing and feeling like I had to do it all at once and lock myself in a room for, however long it was going to take. And I got in a rhythm where I would work on my book an hour or two a day, usually at the end of the day, but not so late in the day that I was really tired. And sometimes I would schedule in the middle of the day, but mostly it was an end of day thing for me. It was a nice transition to, say, okay, I'm done with my work and now I'm going to have some fun writing my book. And I actually really found it fun. I found it really exciting. Some of it was a struggle, but, overall, I really enjoyed the process because I had clarity on where I was, what I had to do next, and so on. The editing part was tougher for me, but the actual, writing wasn't so bad. It was actually pretty enjoyable.
Yeah, and it really should be, right? Especially if it's a topic you're, very invested in and, you're very excited to just like get these ideas on the page. I like that. Just build up that excitement. Don't think of it as a chore or something to do after work. Think of it as, this is my time to really chase my dreams and, get
Yeah.
the word out there. I like that perspective. Very optimistic.
Yep. Yep.
So, yeah, I mean, one more question about this book before we transition into your exciting news about the upcoming book. I'm curious to know, like, now that you have this book on the shelves, would you say that it changed your credibility with your prospects? And I feel like that's a huge thing for a lot of authors why they write a book in general. Have you seen a lot of, positive response?
I have. I would say that my business was very well established when I wrote the book. And some of my friends said to me, you're a little late for doing that. Your business is already well built. And I'm like, yeah, but I really wanted to do it. And I still think that there's more to say. And what it did, though, is it opened up doors to a lot of new clients because I have a lot of referral business, which is very nice, and I'm grateful that I do. But I've picked up a
Mhm.
lot of net new customers that like didn't know me from anybody. They heard about my book or they saw it on LinkedIn or something like that, and they started reaching out to me. Just a month ago, I got an email, and it was from a VP of HR in a good sized company and said, "Our entire leadership team has read your book and we want to talk to you." I was like, "Oh my gosh," that was like totally out of the blue, nothing that I did to cultivate. And I used to do a lot of keynote speaking before COVID. And then COVID, all of it stopped during that time period. And it's been slowly coming back, but my book has really accelerated it. So definitely, I would say to anybody who has a good message, a book will give you more credibility. It'll open up doors. It positions you a little bit differently in the marketplace. And I also have worked hard to market my book. Having a sales background, I don't believe if you build it, they will come. That's a fallacy. You know, if you build it, that's a good start. Now you have to go sell it, right? And you have to
Mhm.
market it. And so one of the things that I do is I send out at least one book a day. I send a lot of books out to people, sometimes introducing myself, and sometimes they already know me. But either way, I send them a copy of my book. And of course, these are folks that I think would be interested. They have to, be a business owner or CEO or sales leader. And I ask them, hey, take a look at the book and then let's set up a time to talk about it. And if you know somebody else that you think would enjoy the book, I'm happy to send it on your behalf. And so that's really marketing for me, right? To get my book in
Yeah.
circulation. And this company I mentioned that read my book, the executive team, somebody passed the book on to them. So it is that kind of marketing initiative that I focused on that's been very successful for me anyway, and I think it would be for others.
Yeah, it really is a great idea. Like, just have extra copies ready, share it around.
Hmm.
If you're, it's more about the message and, spreading the word about who you are and what you can do than, necessarily like, making a fortune on the book itself necessarily, right? But like more so what you build it
Right.
into.
And
So,
it depends, right? If you're writing a business book, I think it's a tool to market and position you, and the real payoff is the client invoicing that you get, not the book sales. My book's shocked me. It's done much better than I thought it would. I've actually hit Amazon bestseller in three categories. They're business categories, like management consulting, that sort of thing. But I didn't think I would even achieve that, so I was really shocked. So for business people, I think it's really a tool. It's a marketing tool and a credibility tool. But if you're going to write a book for pleasure, then yeah, you're hoping that book's going to generate, revenue all on its own. That's really substantial. Um, or maybe you just have a story to tell. Like my second book is a personal story, and it would be really exciting if it sold great. But either way, I want to tell that story because I think it's a story worth telling. So sometimes you just write because you want to, not because you want to make money at it. That's just serendipity if it happens.
right, understood. Well, I love all of that. Amazing tips. But I think it's time then to transition into your next book, which clearly, as you talked about from this first one, you have a passion for writing. You love doing it. So it's so great that you wrote a second one. Tell us more about it. I hear it's about sailing.
It is, and I've been a sailor most of my life, and I've got a U.S. Coast Guard license, and I do yacht deliveries. As part of that, I have a sailboat in the Caribbean. I've had it for 20 years down there, and I was hired in 23 to deliver a 52-foot yacht from Annapolis to the Caribbean, to the British Virgin Islands. And when I took on the job, I was a little hesitant because, there were kind of like three things that were risky that caused me to really almost not take it. The first one is it's a new boat. And believe it or not, new boats have a lot of problems. They're like cars
Mm.
where they come off the factory perfect or nearly perfect. They're kind of like, they're sort of built in the factory and then you shake them out for a year, getting all the little problems worked out because there are problems because they're really hand built, they're custom boats. So that was like a factor, but I'm very mechanical and I thought I can handle that. And
Mm.
then, the second issue was it's hurricane season. And that's not to be ignored or, taken lightly. But I felt, well, if I'm impatient and I have really good weather tracking software and satellite technology and I'm not in a rush, I can certainly find a safe window to deliver the boat between storms. So I felt like I just have to be patient and careful. And then the third factor was I've got to cross the Gulf Stream, which most people don't know about the Gulf Stream, but it comes out of the Gulf of Mexico and it goes all the way to Europe. And it's literally a river that sits on top of the Atlantic Ocean and it runs between 2 and 4 knots from the south to the north. And it's 100 miles wide. And what's so interesting about it is it's much warmer. It's about 20 degrees warmer than the normal ocean temperature. And it creates a lot of weather. And the current is so strong, if the wind blows in the opposite direction, it can make very big waves and be very difficult. But I'm an experienced sailor and I thought I can handle the Gulf Stream. I know what I'm doing. So, anyway, without telling the whole story, I got out there and had a very bad failure. I had a good crew. There were four of us in total, myself plus three others. We were about 600 miles off the coast. We had crossed the Gulf Stream successfully, and then we lost all of our power. Um, and that really put us in a bad spot because there was weather developing further south, and there was weather behind us. And I wanted to go to Bermuda, but you can't really get into Bermuda without an engine because it's a reef. It's the second largest reef in the world. Anyway, without telling the whole story, we had to turn around, and that appeared to be the best decision. And when we turned around, we got into the storm of our life, and barely survived. And the Coast Guard was involved, and the Navy was involved, and they sent out a drone the size of an automobile to check on us, and they sent a C-130 airplane out, and the Navy had an aircraft carrier in the vicinity. It was a big deal. And there was another boat out there at the same time. They were closer to shore than we were, so we were in the heart of the storm. They were in a less severe aspect of the storm, and they sank. That's how bad the storm was. We had 60-mile-per-hour winds and 30-foot waves, and didn't sleep for 3.5 days. Didn't eat any food, and we could have lost the boat. It was really quite a story. So I think it's a story worth telling. And there's some other elements to it that I'll bring into it, in the book. But the people that their boat sank, they were rescued. There was no life loss or loss of life, which is wonderful. But it does kind of validate the severity of the storm. And yeah, so that's the second book. I don't know if it'll sell. It certainly doesn't have any business value, but it's one that I'm working on right now, and and I hope to have it done next year. But I'm taking my time with it. It's a different kind of writing. It's a different experience.
Right, absolutely. Well, hey, I mean, that is an insane story, you know what I mean? So I think if anybody hears a snippet of that, they would want to learn a lot more. So I guess we can be on the lookout for that. It's amazing. And I'm glad you're like okay now.
Totally
um,
fine. A little PTSD, but
I
and
guess.
seriously, I tested a little bit of my ideas with you in this podcast, so I would encourage people to give me some feedback if that sounded interesting, if I was presenting it in a way that was kind of holding their attention, because that's part of what I'm trying to figure out is, I want to tell the truth, but I want to make it interesting.
Right,
So
exactly.
yeah.
I love that. It's so important to do that, like to tell the truth, but also like to share. And I think it's very interesting in itself. So, yeah, I mean, is there a certain day when it's going to be released that we can be on the lookout for?
No, not far enough along yet.
Okay, still in the process. So I guess that
Yeah.
we can stay connected then. People can maybe head to your website or social medias and
Yep.
be on the lookout, and they could also give feedback there too. So what's the best links for everybody to go to?
The best link is to go to joecandido.com. That's
Okay.
really the easiest way to find me. There's links there to connect to my book and other things, and my email and my phone number are there. People are always welcome to reach out to me.
Understood. All right. So there you go, guys. We're going to put the links in the description box of this podcast today. So go ahead and click on over. Um, Now, Matt, I'm wondering, as we begin to wrap up, then, what kind of writing tips might you have for the audience today? Anything that you think people should know getting into this that you wish you knew when you first did?
Well, I didn't know initially that I needed to do the things I already said, figure out my overarching plan, who my target audience is. That was a big one. Who am I really targeting it for? And I made my book, shorter in length because I'm targeting executives, CEOs, sales leaders. And I talked to a lot of them and they're like, I don't have time to read a big book, just like cut to the chase and tell me what I need to know. So I tried to make my book interesting, but, really direct, and it's 160 pages by design, which is long enough, but it's also digestible for an executive. Um, and those things helped a lot in terms of how I wrote it. I have quotes in every chapter because I thought that that was important to bring in some third party voices to reinforce things. I did some research. It was a business book, so I wanted, I didn't want it to just be my voice and my opinion. I wanted it to be, factually backed up. So I had a template or a framework where every chapter would have that aspect to it. And the reader kind of got used to that cadence as well. And I had case studies like you mentioned. I have proof points and examples, which I think really hold people's interest much better than than my narration. Like I can tell a little bit of a story, but then let me give you an example of how it played out. And so for me that was the rhythm that made the writing structured, and I think it makes it easier to read because it has that structure. So those are suggestions that I would pass on. Definitely get someone to be a partner with you, to bounce ideas off of, to brainstorm with. I did a lot of collaboration with peers, and it was really enjoyable to do that. And I got a lot of great ideas from them. And just expect to rewrite stuff. It's you're never going to get it right the first time. You're always going to tweak it and change it. And it's not a race to be done. It should be a journey that is enjoyable.
Right. No, I love that. It really should be. And I'm glad you have that mindset, kind of circling back to that. Maybe that's the theme of this episode, finding joy in what you're doing, regardless of what it is. And, that's the best method for making any work, readable. Because if they feel you're passionate in it, the reader is going to be passionate about it too. So I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It's been a real pleasure to meet you and learn more about your approach and your life. So yeah, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Danielle. It's really a pleasure to be here. Thank you so
Yeah, of
much. Yeah.
course. And again, guys, click on the links, get in touch with Joe, learn more about his strategies in his book, and be on the lookout for the next book, the memoir as well. It's a super passion project, something that we can all learn from, but also just enjoy. So yeah, to the community listening today, keep questioning the status quo, keep putting your audience first, and keep building the expertise that changes industries. The world needs leaders who sell with purpose, not just persistence, as Joe has been teaching us. And if you're inspired to write your own book, be sure to head to authorsonmission.com. We have everything you need: angel writing, editing, marketing, the whole nine. And until next time, just remember that the best salespeople aren't the ones who talk the most, they're the ones who understand the most. We'll see you next time on the Authors on Mission podcast.
Thank you. Bye bye.
That's a wrap on another episode of the Authority on Demand podcast. If today's conversation sparked something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode with a founder or leader who's ready to stop being the best kept secret in their industry. If you want to turn your expertise into inbound demand, head to authorityondemand.com to see how we help clients go from unknown to in demand. I'm Danielle Hutchinson, and I'll catch you on the next one. Now, go build some authority.